Hey, faithful viewer, it is me, Regina Nunnally, better known as the Preacher Kid Sensation, PK Sensation for short. If you follow me on Instagram, The Mental Wealth Builder, I believe in bringing value to the marketplace of your mind, whether through inspirational or motivational or educational teaching, because I am allergic to ignorance. So I just wanted to come on because it's been a while since I've done one of these. But I felt very hard pressed about this one because I've been watching stuff, and when I watch stuff and it stirs up my spirit, I gotta get it out of my system. So I'm watching this church, and the guy is the preacher is hold on. All right, I'm back. So and he was talking about offering, and he was going into the Word of God about offerings and giving, and of course tithing. And so he was trying to encourage his parishioners about what the word says. And so, and many of you probably know, there is this popular televangelist, mega church pastor who a lot of people adore, they follow, some of them pattern themselves after. Some people listen to him more than they do their preacher, their pastor. Either way, he came out, not gay came out, but he came out saying that he had been teaching some false doctrine in relation to tithing. And now he had an epiphany, and now he's saying that it's about grace giving, it's not compulsory. And I haven't really gone into it to exactly specifically what he said. I just know I saw people posting stuff like it was like an emergency, like it was like something about to burn down, and people were posting stuff on Facebook. So let me tell you something about me, okay? I have never been the type of person who ran behind and listened to televangelists. I don't be going to all these conferences. I wasn't buying all their books. Because I never was moved by that. That never really grasped me. I always been a grassroots type of girl. I am a daughter of a pastor. I'm a preacher kid, a pastor's kid, the PK, right? And so, pastors, to me, my daddy was a man. He had his ups and downs. He had his faults and stuff. And so I never really idolized pastors. We knew a bunch of them because of my daddy, so I never looked at them as, wow, they're like different from everybody else. No, they're not. And so because I had that perspective, I'm not moved by all this brouhaha, and I'm not starstruck. And I give people where credit is due, but I've never been the kind of person that will go run behind folks because of who they are. And see, and as for me, I don't have a mega church. I don't have mega gazillion subscribers on YouTube. I'm not an Instagram influencer with how many people following me and all that. So who am I? But what I know is this. I know what the Word of God says, and I know the truth. And I know the truth because it operated in my life. And as a believer, my job is not to follow behind what other people say. It's to know for myself what the Word of God says, because he told me as a workman, I need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth if I study for myself. And in my studying, I also apply the truth and see how it works. So let me give you an example. My dad, as I said, was a pastor. There was a point that he did not want to teach on tithing. He didn't want to teach on tithing. He didn't want to teach tithing at all. Now, I don't know why, because my dad has been gone for over 30 years. But I remember my daddy was not willing to teach on tithing. Okay? The traditional way we let Malachi, when a man rob God, with tithing offerings. Okay? So that type of teaching. He wasn't willing to teach on tithing, period. And he didn't. Because back then, y'all know what they used to do. People used to pay dues. Y'all remember used to pay dues back in the day. I was raised missionary Baptist. I don't know about all y'all, but in the missionary Baptist church, we paid dues. So my dad did not teach on tithing. And then I suddenly start seeing things happening in the household. Supernatural stuff. Okay? Because he was refusing to teach what God put in his word for him to teach. Told him to. So my dad was rebelling. Now, I ain't gonna say I was religiosity at a young age, but I think as a child, I probably could pick up more on certain things because I was a child. Because when you get older and become experienced, you become dull and you become desensitized to sometimes supernatural stuff. So I was noticing things were happening, and I noticed they were all happening to my daddy. But once my daddy started teaching on tithing, then it was a 180. It was a 180 in my dad's life, which also trickled down to the family, which also trickled down to the church. So when the church started doing that, then the church started to move forward. Now check this out. My daddy had a vision of building a church because our old church was wooden. It had no insulation. It was up on cement blocks. It was a toe tapping church, okay? Straight up country church. And so, but he had a handful of people. Now listen, people, listen. Everything we do is out of faith. Tithing is out of faith, and everything we do is out of faith. Now check this out now. My daddy told his people, his small congregation, family members, he said, we ain't going to kill no chickens. We're not going to have no cakewalks. We're not going to have no fish fries. We're going to do what God told us to do, which is tithe and offerings to build this church. And people scoffed at my daddy because they thought, well, you ain't got enough people for doing all that. And my daddy didn't let that deter him. So what he did, he told his parishioners what to do. And guess what? God opened doors because they were obedient to what God said to do. Yeah, they had relatives that could build houses. They had relatives that could do electrician. But guess what? Their people didn't have to. They still was favored because those people were favored, right? So because of the obedience of the people, God favored. And you can go right now to this day down US 1 South, go through Oak Hill, do the flashing past, that flashing light, past the mall, known as the Dollar General, go straight down the US 1, make that right down Shallow Road, go around that corner, and you'll see that church on top of the hill. That church on top of the hill did not come from people who running behind ifs, ands, and buts. It was coming from people who obeyed the word of the Lord. That's a testament right there. Now, I have my own testimony about that kind of stuff, about when it comes to finances, but I ain't going to share that with you. Okay? So it's very important as a believer that you know the truth for yourself. You see, that same televangelist, that same preacher who said, I've been preaching error for so many years, has now have an epiphany saying now he's teaching something different. Who's to say that down in 5, 6, 7, 10 years later, he gonna change his mind and say, oh, you know what? I was wrong on that too. When does it stop? When does it ever stop? When will we ever come to our conclusion, what is real to you? Because he could change his mind tomorrow. And everybody going to be around here confused. There are people who are questioning their own leadership because of what this man said. This man don't even know you. He don't know nothing about you. He don't know your name. And you giving more weight to what he says to what's going on in your congregation. You need to stop that. You need to stop that. Stop D-A-T that. Okay? That is uncalled for. The person who has rule and who has oversee over your soul, that individual, you should follow a pattern. But here's what you need to always remember. You still need to be held accountable for what you do. Why? Because a workman needs to study to show themselves unto prove unto God. Let me tell you why. That same man who said that he was in error said these words. He said that he was teaching false doctrine. What that got to do with you? He said that he was in error. What that got to do with you? He said he was in error. He came to that conclusion for what he was doing. How does that spread to you? All of a sudden now it's your responsibility because he was in wrong? If he had that revelation, he had it. But he can also, like I said, later on said that he was wrong about that. So that's why you need to know the truth for yourself. My daddy didn't teach on gross He didn't teach on net, you know. He didn't teach that kind of stuff. He just said what the word said and kept it there. And they prospered. And they had hit some hard times. And then people got laid off from their jobs, right? Because they all worked at the Cape. But that church still went up. That ministry still going on today. Come on now. What you do for Christ, that's what's going to last. And that's what you put your trust in. Not man. Because we can see all throughout our country, we cannot put our trust in people because they will let us down. Put your trust in God and his word, and guess what? You'll never lose. So with that being said, my name is Regina Nunnally. I am the Preacher Kid Sensation. PK, Sensation for short, if you follow me on Instagram. And it's your Monday motivation for today. Take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.